You simply cannot make it to the top of the wrestling business without some cool wrestling gear. Zack Ryder didn't make it big until he ditched the one-legged tights. Becky Lynch was never going to make it to the top with her Lucky Charms attire. And, what you got going on there, Gunther? But even some of the WWE's biggest names still have the occasional fashion faux pas. And if they're not careful, it can land them in some hot water. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling. Let's take a look at 7 times WWE stars' outfits got them into trouble. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and angle slam that notification bell. Also, a big shout out to Guru77771 for the super thanks. I like to think that we love all you 7-maniacs equally, but I might love Guru77771 a little more equally. Number 1. The Shield. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, collectively known as The Shield, they're arguably one of the most successful and influential factions of all time. They're still making their mark even to this day, with Roman and Rollins rolling into last year's WrestleMania as the WWE's main champions, and Ambrose currently holding the AEW title and recently being the top guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And for all their accolades, this trio almost got off on a very awkward foot. The group made their debut at the 2012 Survivor Series, helping CM Punk win a triple threat match against Jonathan Cena and the Ryback. The original look featured the guys holding big police riot shields. Well, that is quite literal of them. Apparently, Vince McMahon took one look at this and said, "You need a shield to kick somebody's ass?" That's all it took for those silly props to get tossed aside. See, some of Vince's ideas are super good, but obviously not all of them. Another cool part of the gimmick included the guys wearing these half skull masks during their entrance, and holy Winter Soldier Batman, those things are awesome. But alas, Vince nixed this idea. On the Talk is Jericho podcast, Ambrose would say, "We had these cool Sub-Zero ninja masks, we busted them out at WrestleMania, and we looked cool as fuck." I'm not gonna lie. The next night, Vince was just furious. He's like, "They can't see your faces. Get rid of the masks." And the merchandise guys were mortified. They're like, "They're already coming up with designs. We're gonna sell 1 million of these." Vince was like, "No one can see their faces." We did it in Australia again just to piss them off, and we didn't tell them, like, years later, and boy, they got pissed off again. Vince just hated those masks. Yeah, you would have sold 1 million of those. Damn. Even Nikki Bella looks like a badass in one of those. And Vince didn't even let up once the trio went their separate ways. He started this whole vendetta against the color white for some reason. At SummerSlam 2015, the usual X-Man looking Seth Rollins busted out some swanky white gear that was so cool it inspired Jon Stewart to interfere in his match and cost John Cena the United States title. Yes, that Jon Stewart. But Rollins would never wear that look again. In a Q&A, Seth would say, "Nah, Vince won't let me wear it. He doesn't understand that people think this is the coolest gear that they've ever seen. He doesn't get it." I get that question more than anything else. I mean, it's just huge, man. I think it's in the archive. I gave it to the archivist guy, and he puts it up at the accesses and stuff. Boo! White Power Ranger Seth Rollins was a whole mood. Did I say that right? Also, here's a fun fact about that look. When Seth was wearing the all-white, Brie Bella said he looked like a messiah. Maybe a little seed was planted. The then big dog, current tribal chief would have a similar problem at the 2017 Fastlane pay-per-view when he wore an outfit with matching white trim on the tactical vest, gloves, and the soles of his shoes. Apparently Vince didn't like that either. On the Not Sam Wrestling podcast, Roman Reigns would say, "I pretty much matched up my soles because I'll wear different colors with the black. I had white on the vest and gloves and stuff, and they had a white trim on it. I matched it up, and I thought it looked sweet. One person didn't, and he's a very important person." Seriously? What's the deal, Vince? But both of those events were before Labor Day. But maybe this isn't a Shield thing. Maybe Vince just doesn't like white. He hated this Batista gear. He said it looked like he was wearing a diaper. And he didn't give any kind of opinion on this turtleneck, though. You can just hear Vince hating that too. Damn it, you can wear any color you want as long as it's black. Who knows, maybe he's just trying to prevent another moment like when Maria Menounos gave a stink face to Eve Torres at WrestleMania 28 and ended up with a very questionable looking stain. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. I've said it many times, I'll say it again, Shawn Michaels did wrestling gear right. He had a set design on his tights and knee pads that he could change up with different colors or patterns. He could occasionally swap out the hearts for the state of Texas or a D-Generation XX. It was perfection. It's a crime that he switched to those jammy pants. But there was a crime that happened way before that. Now, for the unaware, Shawn Michaels had two very distinct halves to his career. Younger Shawn, who was a petulant jerk and a nightmare to be around, happened to arguably be one of the best wrestlers in the world. And then you've got older Shawn, who seemed to clean up his act and was still arguably the best wrestler in the world. Now, when he started that second half, he didn't know it was going to lead to an almost 8-year run of matches, so when he came back to face Triple H in a street fight at SummerSlam 2002, he just came out in jeans. Also, I miss when people wore jeans to street fights. Who street fights in spandex? Back to the point. After the match, it was clear that Shawn Michaels still had more left in the tank and that he could absolutely still go. His next bout would be a big one where he'd win the world title in the first ever Elimination Chamber match at Survivor Series 2002 in Madison Square Garden. The Heartbreak Kid would commission new gear in a new color. Not red, not blue, not white and gold, not DX green like all his previous attire. No. This would be brown. Poop brown. Just poopy brown. And now, the inspiration for this look comes from that old joke where a captain, when he and his men were headed into battle, he would request his red shirt, so if he bled, his men wouldn't become discouraged, but when faced with a whole armada, the captain requested his brown pants. That was Shawn Michaels' way of expressing how intimidating the Elimination Chamber was. I'm totally kidding. I just like that joke. Horrific color scheme aside, for whatever reason, the tights were never finished on time. So weirdly, you've got an H on each one of his hips. It's believed that it was supposed to read HBK down each side, although it's possible it was gonna say Hickenbottom. And whatever boots he intended to wear didn't work out either because he ended up performing the entire match in cowboy boots. Shawn Michaels in cowboy boots is still probably better than most wrestlers in wrestling boots. It's a shame that such an iconic victory and moment were marred by this crappy brown train wreck of a fit. That's what the kids say, right? Fit. He would smartly revert back to his classic look the next month when he dropped the belt back to Triple H. But thankfully, the good folks at Mattel were nice enough to create this little reminder for us, complete with his weird page boy haircut. 7 worst haircuts of all time. Oh, and we can't forget about the time Shawn's entrance gear turned heel on him. Shawn was always known for his bizarre, stripper-esque costumes that had chaps and vests and various loose chains, mirrors, and all kinds of bits and bobs all over the place. Well, when he amended his entrance routine to include him kneeling in prayer and thanking the Lord, it allowed these little trinkets to slide into the entranceway grating and anchor him to the floor. And when he stood up, one of the most graceful in-ring performers had that moment on live TV. And yeah, the vest did not make it to the ring that night. Number 3, Rey Mysterio. Who's that jumping out the sky, R-E-Y, Mysterio? Here we go. And when he's jumping out of the sky, he's usually got a new outfit on. I believe it was Randy Orton who said the reason he does this is so he can have more and more action figures made out of him, which is some 4D chess kind of stuff. It's freaking brilliant. He's definitely had some hits, like here where he's doing Wolverine. I like this Mysterio one. The Flash one is cool. Wow, what a uniquely new era thing. You never see, like Greg the Hammer Valentine cosplaying as Thor. Mysterio did have some misses too. Here he is against Chavo Guerrero at SummerSlam 2007. I know he's supposed to be the Silver Surfer, but he looks more like a hood ornament. However, this entry is a tale of two jokers. WrestleMania 25, he drew inspiration from the Heath Ledger representation of this iconic figure. It was pretty cool. His trademark bird logos making up that iconic Joker smile. 2 thumbs up. no notes. He'd take another stab at portraying the Clown Prince of Crime a few years later, this time with a Joaquin Phoenix kind of slant, and oof. Maybe it wasn't Joaquin Phoenix he was imitating with that bright green hair and red clown nose. He looks more like Doink. And if I'm being honest, with him squaring off against the giant Brock Lesnar, with that size difference, he looks a lot more like Dink than he does Doink. But I will say this, that outfit was much, much, much better than this one. Oh, and speaking of wrestlers who look like they're almost naked, number 4, the Ultimate Warrior. Whoa, hold the phone there, Siete. Nobody has more iconic gear than the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, I agree. There is a strong debate that his variety of cool looks over the years put him up on the Mount Rushmore of awesome wrestling attire. Actually, who else would there be? You got Ultimate Warrior, Rey Mysterio. Gotta have Rob Van Dam, right? Let us know in the comment section who else you think should be there. Honestly, I bet if you closed your eyes, you could describe his WrestleMania 6 gear from memory. And I was a huge fan of this green Ultimate Warrior attire. For whatever reason, it just kind of stuck with me. Before he was in every WWE video game, that was the costume I'd edit him in when I put him into every WWE video game. He might be in the same boat as Mysterio, where it seems like we never saw him in the same look twice. However, he'd switch things up in 1992 and start wearing airbrush singlets. Now, the reason for this is unknown, but it's been rumored that the Ultimate Warrior looks smaller around this time. It seems a bit early for it to be in response to the eventual steroid trial, but for whatever reason, Warrior tried something new. And we should all be able to experiment with our looks. Quick aside, we talked before about the urban legend that the Ultimate Warrior had died and was replaced by another performer. Well, this new look absolutely fed fuel to that speculation. Honestly, I thought this new look was super cool. You've got busting through a brick wall Ultimate Warrior, cool yellow comic book Ultimate Warrior, super branded Ultimate Maniacs Ultimate Warrior. I was digging it. But what got the inventor of Destrucity into a little bit of trouble is when he first debuted this new look. It all took place on August 23rd, 1992 in a lead-up show to SummerSlam that was called SummerSlam Showdown, where the Warrior would team up with his future opponent Randy Savage to face off against the Nasty Boys. And as he ran to the ring, he looked naked. Yeah, no other way to put it. It was basically a flesh-colored singlet with muscles airbrushed onto it, with Ultimate Warrior logos over his gentleman parts. It was horrifying. And, like a bat suit in the 90s, it absolutely had nipples on it too. Here's the thing. When you're in a tag team with Randy Savage and you've got the weirder outfit, you have really accomplished something. WWE got a ton of complaints about this look, and thankfully we never saw it again. For his bout with Randy Savage at SummerSlam, he'd switch it up to a look where the skin was removed. It looked like we were seeing the actual exposed muscle. And I don't know why that's better, but it is. Actually, it always reminded me of this guy. Oh, are you unfamiliar with Slim Goodbody? Yeah, this guy was a kids' TV staple when I was a youngster. Yeah, good luck getting that out of your brain. The lesson in all of this is if you're going to have somebody wearing a bodysuit that's spray painted to look like they're naked, you need to give them very distinct fur underpants. Although, he didn't always wear those either. Let's move on before I develop a fetish. Number 5, Daniel Bryan. Wait, what? Daniel Bryan has the most normal tights, knee pads, boot combo ever. He's got that signature crimson, black, and white color scheme. He's not Seth Rollins running around in whatever mess he found at a local Goodwill. And outside of the weird furry boots he wore on the biggest night of his professional career, WrestleMania 30, he doesn't take a lot of fashion risks. Oh, and apparently those fur boots were a nod to Bruiser Brody. However, Daniel did try to switch things up, and it completely blew up in his face. In his book, Yes, My Improbable Rise to the Main Event of WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan tells the story of how he intended to change up his character following his criminally short title loss to Sheamus at WrestleMania 28. With the frustrations of the loss weighing on his character, he wanted to make him into more of a crazy, militant, revolutionary type like the legendary Che Guevara. So he commissioned new gear that featured Daniel Bryan logos that seemed to be dripping blood. It had military green accents and a green jacket that had his logo slashed into the back with even more red paint dripping out of it. It was quite a departure. But this is around the same time his Yes chant exploded in popularity with the fans, so the new gimmick didn't quite make sense. He knew the WWE would hate it, but Daniel was a man with a plan. He decided to bust out this look at the 2012 Money in the Bank pay-per-view in his world title bout against CM Punk. And he decided to keep it all a secret until he walked through the curtain. He hid the jacket all day, he wore shorts over his tights until it was time to come out, and when he got in the ring, referee Chad Patton told him to take the jacket off immediately. When Bryan asked why, he was told the order had come directly from a furious Vince McMahon. Later on, the producer of the match, Dean Malenko, would get yelled at over this incident, even though he had no idea that Daniel had secret gear. Honestly, I don't know what dude was so upset about. Nobody was looking at Daniel Bryan. Bryan would go back to his usual look immediately, and it's clear Vince didn't hate the gimmick per se, because Sami Zayn tried something very similar years later and was very successful with it. Number 6. Liv Morgan. Because Liv Morgan is a petite cutie, we tend to think of her as a youngster, but she's been on our TV for almost 9 years at this point. I remember her hop into the ring in NXT with her backwards baseball cap, repping New Jersey, living on a prayer. Oh, she was just a kid. With suspenders around her hips, who does she think she is? Me in high school? I don't want to talk about it. From there, we'd get Riot Squad Liv. Ooh, what a bunch of bad girls. For a while, a major part of her gimmick was just having a blue tongue. She should have gone the whole 9 yards and started eating turnbuckles. We got Christina Aguilera from the Dirty Video Liv, Chucky Liv. She'd actually go on to guest star on the Chucky TV series. Britney Spears from the Oops, I Did It Again video Liv, Spice Girls Liv, Joker Liv. Wow, you could create a pretty sweet faction with all people in Joker gear. But the one we're here to talk about today is the outfit she wore in the 2023 Elimination Chamber. Well, there it is. Well, seems nice enough. What's the big deal? Oh, there it is. Wow. Apparently Liv got quite a talking to over this attire, which shows we've come quite away from the days when they'd hand the cat a sheet of bubble wrap and they'd be like, get out there. On an episode of Break It Down, Liv would say, this is one of my favorite gears. I did get in trouble with this one though because the shorts were a little bit too short, but it fit great and it looked great. I might bring it back, maybe make the shorts a little bit bigger, but I love this gear. Well, she's a Jersey girl, so she's got to be into that denim, and to be honest, I'm pretty fond of this gear too. Number 7, The Undertaker. He's got the best entrance, he's got awesome moves, and his gear, usually, his gear is pretty good. You know, early on he had the cool gloves and the Phantom of the Opera mask. We were digging it. There were some misfires as well. We've got this spandexy nightmare that he wore at No Way Out 2001. But the title holder when it comes to weirdest Undertaker looks is when he busted out these python pants for his title match against Kurt Angle at Survivor Series 2000. Now, the popular theory was that his gear had somehow gotten lost on the way to the arena, and he had to wear a pair of the Godfather's pants. Sadly, that is not true. The dead man has admitted that he had the snakeskin pants specially made against the advice of the person who does his outfits, and it's one of the biggest regrets of his career. I guess in a way that's good, because if he used the Godfather's clothing, I'd want it to look more like this. As far as his entrance attire goes, it's usually great, occasionally terrible. There was the time at Raw 1000 where he got into some serious trouble when he came out to save Kane from a weird hodgepodge of bad guys who were about to rough up the Big Red Machine. The giant coat would buckle on itself and trap The Undertaker inside. He couldn't move. Everybody had to wait politely while a referee figured out how to free him. It was very nice of those bad guys to wait so patiently. Maybe the weirdest of them all has got to be Survivor Series 1996, Survivor Series again, where he descended from the rafters like a bat. But at least he knows that was a disaster. In a Q&A on his site, The Undertaker would say, I didn't like the Undertaker pirate look where I took the bat wings and I descended into the garden. In my brain, it was like, this is going to be so scary. People are going to freak out. Then I just kind of looked like a jacked up Gene Simmons. And bless the hearts of the good people at Mattel, they were able to hook us up with one of these little beauties too. Here's the thing. It's weird, but I gotta tell you, I have just the faction for him to feud with. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other outfits that got WWE stars into trouble? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and slap some Python pants on that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Singer Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.